But then there's the handshake that I shake your hand and I put my hand on top. I'm setting the tone to be dominant. And we do that. Men do that all the time.
You see that a lot in politics.
Pardon me?
So you see that a lot in politics.
Not only that, which side they stand on for a photo shoot. She said you see that a lot in politics. They're not only careful of whose hand gets on top, sometimes I think they're going to wrist fight like the kids' thumb fight. But in a photo shoot, it makes a difference because it appears who is more dominant. So there are lots of things, and then it's when I interview people, I purposely keep my hand underneath to let them think that I'm being submissive. Guess what? I'm just such a stinky interviewer. No. We do that all the time. Those are the three main handshakes. Now, it doesn't mean that when someone puts their hand on top, you need to stand there and wrestle them. It means that you need to be aware that is it going to be a more dominant stance on this person's part. So you want to be aware. Now, if we had more time, we could go into I'm shaking your hand and then I put my hand on your shoulder. Or I put my hand on your elbow. Or I put my hand over your hand and now your hand's between my two hands. Of course, you have the option that the kids use. You can play it and put it on top of that, but in business it doesn't go over so well. So be cognizant of it. You can't change it, but you can be aware of what the signals mean and what signal you're giving across. Do you realize that less than 30% of women in business, 30% of women in business know how to properly shake a hand? How long do you keep eye contact for? How long do you shake a hand for? Where are your feet when you're shaking a hand? Are they in the flight position? One foot is turned out for those who can't see my large feet over here. We have lots of ways of getting across to someone that we don't want to be talking to you too long. When we're networking for business, we're always networking. I've seen people who talk to me that are standing like this. Hi, how are you? Well, I'm not that interested. How do you do? Or the boss who comes in the morning and says, in response, because you were nice enough to say good morning, they'll say good morning, how are you? And by the time they get the how are you out, they're already over there. They don't want to hear the answer. That's body language. Those are clues and cues. But we're giving off the same ones. Do we say good morning, how are you to someone while we're still walking and not waiting for the answer because it's customary? How do we handle ourselves? Eye contact, grip, and posture. It's important. Yes, ma'am? It depends. If you see them moving in for, she said a lot of men want to hug a woman today. There are some that are appropriate, some not so appropriate, and usually you can see what they're walking in for. You can either do that, or you can step forward with your hand extended. They're going to have a hard time walking with their stomach into your hand extended. But again, you have to be firm. A lot of women are hesitant, and so that they don't always get their message across. Yes, ma'am?
It depends on the country you're at as well. I live mostly in Mexico, and I'm very used to hugging and saying hi with kids.
Right.
Even here, when they give me a hand, why are you? Hi, how are you?
But we're talking in business, and there are laws that could be intimidating. So yes, there is a cultural difference. But in business, unless it's an old friend, but this young woman had said that there are cultural differences. In Mexico, she hugs and kisses. There's a person I've worked with for 20 years. I greeted Michelle today with a hug and a kiss. I always like seeing her, and then I hope to get invited back to this wonderful restaurant here. But there's appropriate times that we do that. But in business, as a rule, unless it is a special relationship, not appropriate. Don't know what that was, but okay. Be aware of what is preening or provocative. Now, as I say, I've been doing this with this, you like this haircut? That, if you're in a room of men, is really inappropriate. And if I had been in a meeting and this started to fall down and my hairspray went away because it's warm, I would have, at the beginning, tucked it behind my ear and been done with it. But because there's a camera going and that side doesn't look really, no, I'm teasing. So we want to understand that it's their perception of us. If we keep, the famous Sharon Stone movie, whatever that was called, where she shifted her legs, a Basic Instinct, thank you. We want to be careful of that. Now, obviously, that was staged. But the same thing could be found of a young woman sitting in a meeting with men, and we're still in a male-dominated situation in most cases. You want to be aware of what signals you're sending off for what reasons. And know when your body language is harassing. Yes, ma'am.
How do you maintain your femininity or something like that when you are, or not being perceived like, oh, she's trying to be manly or something? When you're trying to be conscious of all these body language rules.
They aren't rules, number one, they're guidelines. She wants to know how we retain our femininity. We do it in a way that's natural to us. I don't wait in business for a man to open a door for me. I will open a door for another woman if their arms are filled. If it makes sense, do it. In business, we're all equals. But just because a man, can do or touch certain parts of their body and it's accepted as a normal course of action, this is on tape, I have to be careful here, as a normal course of action doesn't mean that we're allowed the same privileges. And we aren't. And that's just the difference between sexes. And I have to tell you, I'm glad we're not. I'm really glad we're not. So it's maintaining your own level of femininity and what you are comfortable with. Would I join business people for a drink after dinner? Sure, if it's appropriate. If the jokes get out of hand or the drinking gets out of hand and I'm feeling uncomfortable, it's time for me to quietly exit, not to change their behavior. Does that help? A little? Signs of deception. Again, not a single cluster. I put this in because everyone really enjoys it, except my teenagers when I was bringing them up. They did not enjoy it. Gestures, change in composure. That person who's been sitting quietly and when asked a question and they have to hesitate and they may start blinking, they may lose eye contact. That may not be enough to say that they're lying, but it's enough to tell you there's a level of discomfort. Now you start adding in squirming in their chair or change in their gesturing or their body language that they had for the last half hour. Odds are, I'd keep questioning in that that area because something isn't right. So we want to at least look for this cluster, and if you have 3 going on at the same time, odds are in your favor that you're going to find an absolute indiscretion, lack of 100% truthfulness. That person that I referred to before, there's a great book by Joe Navarro, and it's called What Everybody Should Know. He was an FBI agent that specialized in white-collar crimes, and he became so good that he beat lie detectors. But what you have to understand is that he was interviewing the same kind of person in the same environment at the FBI offices for the same typical types of crimes. And so there was a standardization of body language. So when he went to a bar, he was still fairly accurate, but not at the same level that he was at in his own environment. So you can get very, very good at this. Great signs of deception. Change in voice pitch is really, I have found in my experience, a great giveaway. Yeah, Ma, I had a good day. Yeah, everything's okay. Really? Did you get stopped by anyone on the way home? No, not really. Good sign. They don't understand that the mom vine works a whole lot faster than anything else. What you do speaks so loud that I cannot hear what you say. So if you take away anything tonight, please take away that we're women, we're good at what we do, we're nurturing souls, but we're intelligent, strong business people, and our body language should represent us as such. I want to thank you very much, and if there are any questions, I'll be around for a little while. You've been a wonderful audience.